Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this video are those of my own and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any other person or group of people. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of any group of people, person, or fanbase or its members. This video and the presentation of material therein do not imply the expression of any opinion other than mine.
Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. Today I am going to be sharing my thoughts and my opinions, and that's what they are. They're mine. They don't necessarily reflect anybody else, but the reemergence, not really reemergence, the growing popularity of Katie Sackhoff and The Mandalorian, possibly showing up in the new Ahsoka, has kind of got me back interested in Battlestar Galactica. I have recently rewatched both the original and the reimagined. I need to state for the record that I like and enjoy both series. I was 5-6 years old when the original series came out. I was in a military family, so current events was something that we grew up with, me, my sister, because growing up in the military, my father being a senior NCO, current events was something that was pounded into our heads from a very early age. So I didn't quite, at that age, I didn't quite understand until later the things that shaped the original BSG series. And as I got older, I started to see what they were drawing on, what real life things were going on that they were pulling from. The second one that came out, the reimagined Battlestar Galactica, I was in my early 30s. And because of being trained, for lack of a better term, by my father and my mother to stay up on current events and what was going on, I almost instantly saw what they were drawing from. The original Battlestar Galactica, you had the fallout from the near to the end of the Vietnam War. You had the energy crisis. You had the sexual revolution, just to name a few things. The reimagined series, you had the fallout from 9/11. You had what a lot of people viewed as an incompetent president in the United States. And you had laws like the Patriot Act, which are all woven through the reimagined series, as were the real-life events of the original series were pulled in. I personally do not believe that you could have made a true word-for-word, beat-for-beat in the reimagined series to the original series without losing a ton, not really losing, more like gaining more of a fan, your younger fan, your science fiction fans and what have you. The older people like me that grew up 70s, 80s, became adults in the early 90s. We grew up with that. We grew up with the Cold War. We grew up being latchkey kids. So those people would probably migrate naturally into the Reimagined series. But you couldn't draw any new people into any new fan base. You'd get the existing fan base, but you couldn't grow it, you couldn't expand it. So that's the reason why they're so drastically different as far as feel, themes, stuff like that. I do not have any problem with the gender and race changes that they made in the updated, the reimagined BSG versus the original BSG. Let's look at the makeup of Hollywood in the late 70s. It was male dominated. Not only was it male dominated, it was white male dominated. Then we flip to the reimagined BSG, and you get a Hollywood that has more inclusivity, more minorities, more females. Even to this day, even almost 20 years after the reimagined Battlestar Galactica, you have even more, hit my microphone, more inclusiveness. Now you're getting more, not only are you getting heteronormative cisgender people in the shows, you're getting your transgender, your homosexual, your bisexual, and so on and so forth being included in your stuff coming out of Hollywood in 2023. If they were to do another reimagined, I'd love to see them include that into, because this would give us a very accurate timeline showing how values and morals and acceptance and empathy have changed since the late 1970s. It's just an interesting thing to me. I really enjoyed Katie Sackhoff as Starbuck. That was a pretty good, fortuitous casting choice. She plays a very strong female very well, i.e. Starbuck and Bo-Katan Kryze, both in the animated Clone Wars and in live-action Mandalorian. She was a good pick for that role. The original Starbuck reflected 1970s male-dominant, heteronormative values of the time. He was a playboy, gambler, womanizer, and by today's standards may even be considered a misogynist. So you have that. The character of Apollo changed from this wholesome schoolboy, mindful kid, what parents wanted their kids to be in the late 1970s, to the new Apollo, or Leodama, as he's referred to. They clear up that their call signs weren't their names. Starbuck got the name of Kara Thrace. Apollo became Leodama. And like fighter pilots, they have the call signs. Apollo, Starbuck, just for example. The fact that you show female in a combat role, not only in a combat role, but throughout the series she evolves into more of a leader, inspirer, teacher, and it's done really well. A lot of the stuff from when Glenn Larson in the original was hands-on, and you got a lot more of the aspects of his Mormon faith. Not a bad thing. It works really well because a lot of people, such as myself, who know very little of the Mormon Church, you just assimilate that information. Those people like me that are curious about said information went and researched and found out, the different aspects within the Mormon Church and how the Quorum of 12 was brought in, and how the myths from the Mormon religion affected Glenn Larson in his making of the show. I use the term myths simply not because I'm not trying to discourage or despair or in any way put down any religion. It's just from an objective, non-threatening point of view, I feel that I'm going to use the term myth simply so somebody that is of a different religion, especially a non-Abrahamic religion, would be able to go, okay, he's being objective. And which is kind of always in America kind of a quasi area, gray area, simply because in American Christianity I have met people physically that when you refer to any of your Abrahamic religions as myth, get totally bent out of shape. Just they lose it. So, for an objective viewpoint, I am using the word myth because it is a good neutral term. Like I said, I'm not trying to denigrate or downplay any particular religion. I am simply using it as a neutral word. But back to what I was saying. Glenn Larson pulled from a lot of his Mormon upbringing, his beliefs and stuff like that. It's no different than Leonard Nimoy pulling in a lot of his Jewish beliefs into the character of Spock in Star Trek. It worked. It's a great thing. They made it work. And therefore Star Trek's carried on for, 50, 60 years. Since the late 1960s through now. So, like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. Now, in the reimagined Battlestar Galactica, they used, Larson was a consultant, and they used a lot of the Mormon myth, but incorporated it with more with a lot of secular stuff, bringing in the politics of the early 2000s, and they weaved it together. They did it in a very good way. It is also my opinion that Richard Hatch, who played the original Apollo in the original series, did a damn good job of portraying Apollo. But I think he did a better job, and the character of Zarek was way, he pulled that off a lot better, a lot smoother. It could have been how he refined his acting chops over the years, but I really like Richard Hatch as Zarek. He does it well. I mean, he's such a great, I mean, he pulls that kind of character off very well. Does it insanely good. But like I said, that's my opinion. I also like Lauren Green as Adama, and I really enjoy Edward James almost as Adama in the Reimagined. And if pushed came to shove, I was forced to choose between the two, I would go with almost as the better Adama. But that's simply because, like I said, I was in my early 30s. 9/11 just happened. You had Patriot Act. You had the Patriot Act. You had people worried legitimately about a military takeover of the United States. And I don't think their worries were unfounded. I honestly do. I mean, it could have went left real quick, real fast. However, it did set up things for 2016 to 2020 in the United States, which is kind of another video. It's what it is. It's another video. But and I think at that time being in my early 30s, that it did, being more attuned to what was going on around me, being attuned to being an adult, that Adama, the reimagined Adama, stuck to me more than the Adama when I was a 5-6-year-old kid. Like I said, don't get me wrong, Lauren Green as Adama was wonderful. I really enjoyed it, and I still do to this day. However, for just a personal bias, and that's what it is, personal bias. Let's not try to pretend it's anything else but personal bias. I would go with the reimagined Adama. The reimagined Apollo versus the idealistic Apollo from the original series. That is hard. I like the idea of having an idyllic, unflawed character. But I do like flawed characters. I like flawed good guys. I think that's the reason why I really enjoy the reimagined Starbuck. is because Starbuck is deeply flawed, extremely flawed, but at the same time, she's a good person. The original Starbuck was flawed too. Like I said, womanizer, gambler. And like I said, probably by today's standards, you could probably accurately refer to him as a misogynist. That might be that is probably an unpopular belief or unpopular viewpoint, but it's my viewpoint. The character of Boomer from the original to the reimagined, I enjoyed both of them. I liked the Boomer in the original, and just because he was the good supporting character, the friend's friend, the guy that always had your back. The reimagined Boomer, now that took some balls to make that Boomer a covert Cylon who didn't know that they were a Cylon. It's just one of those things. It took some balls. Grace Park pulled it off very well. It was very excellent the way she pulled it off. And all in all, it was a very ballsy move. Very strategically planned. I also like the fact in the reimagined, you get more of the of the military, the call signs, sitting Marine, having a distinction between your colonies, Navy and the Marine Corps, and between pilots, fighter pilots and pilots, recon pilots, what have you. I love that. You didn't get that in the original, but for the way the original was made and the time it was made, you didn't need that. It was one of the first shows that was early post Star Wars, and it made sense just to do it the way they did. If you look at even the more modern, especially the animated Star Wars, animated Clone Wars, Bad Batch, Rebels, you get more of the military feel, you get more of the incorporation to give it depth and give it life, and and by having all that, it makes the series feel more real, in my opinion. Keep knocking that thing around. So, all in all, I really, really enjoyed both BSGs. I am disappointed is not the word. Maybe it is. I don't know. That the original series only made it one season, whereas the reimagined went 4 seasons. So you got more meat, more of a buffet with the reimagined than you did the original series. Gas. So the BSG, and I really don't care if you pick one over the other, if not, and if you do, if no, you don't, it's all good, because both of them are educational. Both of them are glimpses, time capsules, like any good science fiction. They're both really good time capsules. You go back and you look at the original Star Wars. Close Encounters, Jaws. Then you look at the stuff like James Cameron's take on Aliens. They're all time capsules. Like they tell you, Alien, Ridley Scott's Alien, was the first movie I had ever seen. I was 8 or 9 years old, and somehow I managed to talk my mom into taking me to see it in the theater. Don't know how. 53 years old today, and I'm really not sure how I talked my mom into it, unless she secretly wanted to go see it herself. I don't know. But that movie, and at that age, impacted on me, imprinted on me, that women can fill strong leadership, intelligent roles. And I think that movie set the bar for everything that has come since with strong females, or the perception of strong females. And a lot of it through the rest of the 70s and into the 80s and even in the 90s, that's what it is they wrote things to give the appearance of a strong female, but they kind of chickened out at the last second. Unlike the reimagined, when you start getting into the early 2000s, then you start getting Ripley-esque strong females, i.e. Katie Sackhoff as Starbuck. That, you get these strong females. I also need to touch on the fact that Dean Stockwell is also in Battlestar Galactica. As far as dedicated science fiction actors, you can't really beat the late, great Dean Stockwell. His everything from Quantum Leap to Dune to everything that this man did as far as science fiction goes. The movie or the show or whatever may have been crap, but Dean Stockwell elevated it up to this next level. He was just one of these science fiction actors. He was made for science fiction. Unfortunately, he passed a number of years back. Same with Lauren Green, Richard Hatch, all remarkable actors in their own right. They all did good things and brought this art form forward. So, I'm going to go ahead and call this good at this point on this video. I may make more Battlestar Galactica videos expanding upon different things that I touched on in this video. But I am doing my I'm doing my breakdown of the Rabbits podcast, and that's taking priority right now. This is a video because evidently the YouTube analytics are like, the more videos you upload, the more we can send it out and blah blah blah. So I'm doing this video. I want to try to do 1 or 2 videos between Rabbits podcast videos, just for filler, so everything's not stacked together in a block. Plus, go into other things that other fandoms that I hold and stuff like that. It's just a general thing I enjoy doing. So, until next time, peace.